Only in Kentucky could one small county help give us a Backstreet Boy and build the largest charcoal iron furnace on Earth.
Hi, I'm Michael, and I want to learn a little bit more about Kentucky. One county at a time. All 120 of them. And today, I'm learning about Estill County. And as always, if I got something wrong, tell me in the comments. This county was formed in 1808. It was carved out of Clark and Madison counties at a time when eastern Kentucky was still frontier territory. It was the 56th county formed in Kentucky. The county was named for Captain James Estill, a Revolutionary War officer who was killed in 1782 during what became known as Estill's defeat. The county seat is Irvine, and just next door is Ravenna, and together they're often called Estill County's Twin Cities. Most of the county's population still lives in or around those two cities. Before any permanent white settlement, this area was used by Shawnee groups. A Shawnee village existed near what became known as Estill Springs along Station Camp Creek. Buffalo traces and native paths ran through this region, connecting the bluegrass to the Appalachian interior. By the late 1700s, explorers and settlers started filtering in. Some were passing through, others stayed. Forts and stations popped up nearby, and land claims followed the rivers and creeks. The Kentucky River is the backbone of Estill County. It cuts directly through the center of the county and shaped everything that came after, because the Kentucky River also dumps into the Ohio River. Fertile bottomland supported farming, while the hills and ridges around them held timber, iron ore, and coal. Remember that in a moment. Geographically, Estill County sits right on the edge of two different kinds of Kentuckys. The western side leans bluegrass. The eastern side rises into knobs in the beginning of the Cumberland Plateau. In the early 1800s, Estill County became one of Kentucky's first industrial centers, but not because of coal, because of iron. Iron ore was discovered in the hills, and hardwood forests provided the charcoal needed to fuel furnaces, and by around 1810, iron production was already underway in the county. Over the next several decades, multiple iron furnaces operated here. The remains of Cottage Furnace still stand today, and so do the ruins of Estill Steam Furnace. But the most important one was built near Ravenna in the late 1860s. That furnace was called the Fitchburg Furnace. It stood roughly 60 feet tall and stretched more than 80 feet in length. At the time it was completed, it was the largest charcoal iron furnace in the entire world. Again, not Kentucky, not the United States, the whole world. It produced roughly 25 tons of iron per day at its peak. The iron went into the rails, tools, and industrial equipment during the post-Civil War boom. The furnace still stands today, like a stone giant sitting in the woods. Now, iron didn't last forever. Timber was cut faster than forests could regenerate. Ore veins also thinned, and so by the late 1800s, Estill's iron industry totally collapsed. Coal did exist there, but never at the same kind of scale of other eastern Kentucky counties. Logging and agriculture took over. Tobacco became a major crop. Corn and hay followed. During the Civil War, Estill County leaned heavily Union. Many local men joined Union regiments, including the 8th Kentucky Infantry and the 14th Kentucky Cavalry. A place called Estill Springs became a training and staging area for Union troops. The county saw raids and skirmishes, but no large battles were there. One Confederate cavalry raid briefly entered Irvine in July 1863, but I saw that it lasted for hours, not days. It's sometimes called the Battle of Irvine, but in reality, it was more of a short clash. After the war, Ravenna became a rail hub for the Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company. Trains moved timber, coal, and manufactured goods in and out of the county. And because of that, today, Ravenna is also home to the Kentucky Steam Heritage Corporation, which is restoring massive Chesapeake and Ohio steam locomotive inside the old rail yard. Before the railroads faded, Estill County had another draw: water. Estill Springs was a mineral spring resort beginning in the early 1800s. People believed, as I've mentioned in other videos before, they believed that certain water had healing properties. Wealthy Kentuckians came to drink, bathe, and socialize. Even Henry Clay visited, so did John C. Breckinridge. The resort operated for decades and became one of the region's most well-known health destinations. That era faded by the early 20th century, but the name stuck. By the 1900s, Estill County settled into the pattern it largely still has today, which is small manufacturing, farming, timber, and a lot of people leaving for work elsewhere. And speaking of people, Estill County produced some names that you might not expect. One being Kevin Richardson. Backstreet Boy Kevin Richardson. Kevin was born in Lexington, but he was raised in Estill County. He graduated from Estill County High School in 1990. Before joining the Backstreet Boys, he worked at Walt Disney World, and by the mid-1900s, he was part of one of the best-selling pop groups in music history. Kevin has consistently acknowledged Estill County as home, as well as his overall Kentucky roots. Another is Harry Dean Stanton. Harry Dean Stanton was born in West Irvine in 1926. He went on to appear in more than 200 films and TV shows. You might not know the name, but you know the face. The Mountain Mushroom Festival happens every spring in Irvine. I did read some ghost stories. One of the most talked about ghost stories in Estill County is tied to the ruins of Cottage Furnace. I read that an enslaved man working at the furnace tried to escape, and instead of being captured, he ran straight toward the furnace and jumped in. Some versions say he jumped into molten iron. Others say he climbed into the stack itself. Details kind of shift, but the ending never really does. A man chose the furnace over being taken back, and that's kind of creepy. I also read reports from people who have visited the furnace who say the place feels different the closer you get to it. People describe hearing footsteps around the stone walls when no one else is there. Others talk about breathing sounds or movement in the trees when the air is still. A few say they feel watched, especially near dusk, and leave without really knowing why. So I guess you could say that the furnace is quiet now, but it doesn't necessarily feel empty. Oh, also, fun fact, Tyler Childers currently has a house in Irvine. Or at least so I've read. So, that's Estill County. What'd I get wrong this time?